Hello and welcome to a humble Highland home. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I've been spending quite a lot of time in the kitchen this week as it's been so cold outside with the snow and the temperatures reaching down to -6 during the day and down to -10 at night. Not as bad as some areas, but pretty chilly nonetheless. For many years now, in January, I do a low spend month. So this year is no different as I look to use what we have fresh from the freezer and also from our pantry. And this just makes sure that we're using everything up and nothing goes to waste. So yesterday I noticed that we had a leek and a turnip, otherwise known as a neep, that needed using up. So I set some broth mix to soak last night, and today I'm going to make some vegetable broth. Broth mix is made up of pearl barley, split peas and red lentils. I soak my broth mix in water and some bicarbonate of soda overnight, and it allows everything to absorb the water, helping with an even cooking process and preventing them staying crunchy. Whereas we're looking for a nice soft consistency, which can help with ease of digestion. Now I'm not too good at measuring all the ingredients out, but I will write the basic recipe in the video description below. Broth can be very forgiving depending on what vegetables you've got in at the time, but the basic ingredients consist of onions, carrots, leeks, celery, a turnip, kale or spring greens if you like, some liquid stock, oil or butter, herbs and a bay leaf if you have any bay leaves to hand. I'm preparing the leeks, the onions and the turnip by making sure that they're clean and then peeling them and chopping them up into small pieces. The carrots and the celery were grown last year and I blanched them and popped them in the freezer for occasions like this. Now this is how I was taught to chop up an onion to prevent your eyes watering. And the trick is you can cut off the top but leave the bottom bit intact until the very last minute, because this is what makes your eyes water. It won't stop your eyes from watering, but it might not be as bad. I've rinsed off the broth mix to make sure that I've gotten rid of all the bicarbonate of soda. And we need some stock. Now it's quite common to use lamb, mutton, chicken or beef stock, but today I'm using some scrap veg stock that I make and freeze. Stock is so easy to make and can help use up some scrap veg or bones from other meals if you eat meat. And it's something else that you know exactly what's gone into it when you make it yourself. And then it's something else that you don't have to buy at the supermarket. Now in some places, stock can also be called a broth, but to me the two are completely different things. As for today, we're using stock in the broth. Now one of my challenges that I've set myself for this year is to really focus in on being more independent from the supermarkets. Now I've gradually been doing this over the years, but I've decided to really knuckle down this year, as here in the UK we face yet another tax increase via the food packaging. Now I'm not a fan of food packaging where it is not needed, and I've been seeking out alternatives over the years, like the refill of our containers at the refill shop. But not everyone has access or the time to visit the separate shops, and not everybody has got a refill shop. But we can only do what we can with what we have, and for us that's bringing it back into our own home and our own kitchen table. And it means that we have to plan things out a little bit more, recognise the staple things that we use, what we can grow or what we can make for ourselves. Now I've made another video regarding the convenience versus home economy, where I speak of making conscious decisions where we choose to spend our money and what businesses we support, versus building our own resilience in our own home economy. In that video I made oat milk, honey granola and crusty bread. And in today's video I'm using items from the fridge that need to be used up, from items that we've grown and preserved ourselves, and pantry staples. And these are great examples of how our menu and the foods that we eat change from season to season. In summertime we eat a lot of fresh salads straight from the garden, and then in winter we turn to our stored foods in the freezer and in the pantry, which is made up of homemade and bought staples that see us through. We are quite inventive to balance making things last as long as we can without things spoiling. Now this might not be for everyone, and that's okay, but we get less and less reliant on food suppliers that sell convenience rather than ingredients. Food suppliers that sell highly processed foods that have been shipped all over the world for the different stages of its process. Also, food sources and the supply chains that can be so vulnerable for many reasons. So I'm taking the decision to step it up a gear again this year, to take another step towards our own home economy, which for us is in the kitchen. Now with this broth, I am showing you two different ways of cooking it, as Adam doesn't like neeps or kale, so I'm going to split the recipe and I will cook one in the slow cooker and one on the stove. Using the slow cooker is a handy way to cook it, because you just throw everything in the pot and let it cook all day, but I must admit my favourite is on the stove. I melted some butter in the pan and I fried off the onion and the leek, put the lid on and just allowed it to soften. Then I split the onion and leek in between the pan and the slow cooker. Then I'm adding the rest of the chopped up vegetables and the broth mix before adding the stock. Once the stock is in, then I can adjust the amount of liquid that's in the pan by just adding some hot water or some additional stock if I feel that it needs it. And like most casseroles, soups, stews or broths, you can have them as thick a consistency as you like, just by controlling the amount of stock or water you add to them. And there's nothing quite like a hot bowl of second day soup. So once I've served up today, then I'll be adding some more water, maybe a wee bit more stock, and then tomorrow it will have thickened up again, ready to be served again or to be frozen for another day. I'm adding a good dollop of seasoning and I'm bringing the pan to the boil and then turning it down to simmer. But with the slow cooker, I've turned it up to the high heat and then I will turn it down to the slow so that it cooks throughout the day. And whilst the broths are cooking, sometimes it's nice to have a wee alternative to bread or oatcakes with soup. So a cheese or plain scone can be the perfect accompaniment. These are going to be cheese scones, so I'm using self-raising flour, some salt and pepper, a wee bit of mustard powder, some butter, or you can use margarine, some cheese, an egg, and some milk to brush on the top. It's a straightforward recipe, mixing the flour and the seasoning and then rubbing in the butter or the margarine. I'm using butter in this recipe. This is what I do to encourage all the lumpy bits to come to the top. So just shake the bowl vigorously from side to side and all those lumpy bits will show themselves. This cheese has previously been frozen, so it's incredibly crumbly, so I didn't have to grate it too much. Now to mix in the crumbly or the grated cheese, and you can save some to put on the top before mixing in the egg and a little bit of milk just to bring it into a dough. Then roll the dough out to approximately 1.5 centimeters or half an inch in thickness and cut them into a shape that you would like. You could do a circle and cut it into triangles, or you could do them like I'm doing into little scones. I rolled them out a little bit too thin for my liking, but the end result will be perfectly edible. And before popping them in the oven to cook, I'm brushing them over with egg wash before adding a sprinkling of cheese. I will cook these on the middle shelf of a hot oven up to 220 degrees centigrade or 425 Fahrenheit for approximately 10 to 15 minutes or until golden brown. Given that Adam's not here just now, I think I have the duty for chief taste tester. And whilst I'm dishing up, I'd like your thoughts on something. A little while ago, I received a comment on another video that I'd made, asking me to jump straight to the recipe, and it got me thinking. If this is something that you folks might like either on this channel or if I set up a brand new channel, with the idea being that we focus on home cooking with the ingredients that we recognise. We can share recipe and build our skill sets and replace some of the shop bought items that are better for us and can cost less. So I value your opinion. What do you think? But for now, thank you so much for watching until the end. Until next time, take care of yourself and others, and I'll see you in the next video.